what are the configurations that we will need? So first thing is that here if you see, so we'll see two-way matching. Okay, so now to
Mm-hmm.
do this two-way matching, so I will need these configurations to be completed. Okay, so
Yeah.
this configurations, if you see, so this will have the interlinked with this particular configuration, that is approval. And also if
Correct.
we come down, so we have something called tab, so that is transaction account builder. Okay, so we'll have to complete this also. So we'll see these items today. Okay, and we'll try to complete one flow, that is P2P with two-way matching. Okay, and
Okay.
also we'll see what is hold and when will we use the holds and the functionality behind it. Okay, so that's what we have planned for today. So let me just go to the application, setup and maintenance. Okay, so let me query for common options. Okay, so this is the one. So I'll just open this. So this part we have already created it. So it is the common options for payables and procurement. Okay, so now these items are basically given by finance. So before that, so why do we have these account code combination is that, so if so this liability, if you remember, so we had this thing, right? So when we are creating this invoice, so we'll have this liability account created. So after creating the invoice, so now this liability account will be generated basically from three places. So it's not mandatory. So it is mandatory only here in the common options. Okay. So now the first place that I can use this is that the supplier site. Okay. So we'll see the supplier site and the other things in detail, but other day which I showed where we had this account code combination, right? So that's the one that I'm explaining here. So that's the liability account. Okay. So there I can give, or I can give a supplier profile. If not, I'll have to give here. So now in terms of flow, system will first look for the supplier information, and then if it is not there, so system will take from here. Okay. So prepayment is advance. Okay. So this also will see, because in the flow, so we have only the invoice, but there are few requirements. So wherein business will ask us to create this purchase order for the advance that we are giving it to the vendor. Okay, because so let's take a scenario. So wherein I'm involved in this construction business, so I will not be releasing this particular payment on immediate basis. So instead, I'll have this milestone based payments. Okay, so now what will happen is that, so if the 10% of the work is completed, so let's say I am constructing a building. Okay, so I have given this to someone who will do this for me. Okay, which will be in contractual basis. So now this person, once he completes, let's say 20% of the work, so I'll release some amount, and then the remaining 30% or 40%, I'll release the next amount. So this is basically based on the milestone that we are releasing the payment. So now usually for this, so prepayment there are two kinds. So one is normal supplier prepayment, so for which we will not need this PO. So this purchase order which we are talking about is if I have a requirement wherein I'll release the payment basis on milestone. Okay, so for which we will have this PO based requirement. Okay, so that is the flow that we will see, because here we will create the purchase order, and then we'll create the prepayment directly, and that flow also we'll see. Okay, so these two things we'll see when we see the two-way matching. Okay, and apart from that, if I'm creating, let's say, this particular purchase order that I'm releasing, this particular vendor is not doing the operation in India. So instead, this vendor is doing operation in, let's say, in China. Okay, so now this will become my import transaction. So now, if we are talking about the import transaction, so probably the currency rate might change on regular basis. So probably today it might be let's say 40 rupees or something. So tomorrow it might be 41 or 42. Okay. So now this variance is, if at all there is any variance, so that particular variance will be captured here as a gain or loss. Okay. So that's about these accounts. Okay.
Okay.
Just give me a moment.
As
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so that is about these accounts. Okay, and then so these are basically related to the freight, and in case if I have discount option, so discount will not talk about the procurement. So discount is majorly at the invoice level. Okay, so now for that particular discount, if I want to capture somewhere in the accounting information, so this is the place where I'll give the discount account. Okay,
okay.
and also I have multiple options in the invoice screen wherein I can select this as an item line. So item line meaning this particular line that I'm adding is basically an item. So it could be the material or it could be an asset item. Okay, table or computer, laptop or something like that. Okay, now, I also have the freight and miscellaneous. So, freight is something that if I have freight charge for this particular purchase order that I'm booking, so I will have my freight account also included. Okay, and
Okay.
then I have the miscellaneous. So, miscellaneous is something that it could be other charges or it could be the unidentified expenses. Okay, or the utility bills also I can consider this as the miscellaneous because those are not actually the item but it is just the expense that I'm booking in the system. Okay, so
Okay.
these are the accounts that system will generate if I'm changing the methods. Okay. Yeah, and this is something on the finance side because they will have a certain process in terms of releasing the payment amount, sorry, the invoice amount. Okay, because what they will do is that, so let's say the invoice amount is 10,000 rupees. So now they will pay 60% of it, that is 30,000 rupees, and this 4,000 rupees they will release it once the complete work is done. Okay, so that's the option of this thing, retainage release. Okay. Yeah, and then this is also something of an accounting thing. So here, if you see, so let's take this combination for the currency conversion rate. Okay, so now if you see, so this is company 120 and department 10 and the account. Okay, so now let's say the department here that I have given is 10, but if I look at my invoice data or if I look at my receipt or the delivery entry, so it's not actually the 10 that I have created. So it is probably 12 that I have created. So instead of attaching IT, so I wanted to attach finance or the production
Okay.
department. So now my invoice will have the debit item and credit item I'm taking from here. Okay. So now if you see, so one line it will say 10 and the other line it will say 12. So to avoid this, so if I enable this option called all segments except natural account, so whatever I'm entering there or whatever the transaction that is created as an invoice or the receipt entry, so basically it will copy other information from that particular combination. So instead of this particular combination. So it will take only this account. So which means only 78630 is the account which will have. So the other combinations it is derived from basically the invoice information. Okay. So that is this option and Then what else? Yeah, so this is what it is. So this is what I want to discuss. So now here, if you see, so we have something called expense accrual. So accrual, we saw that something that is, I mean, receipt is created, but it is not invoiced it. So that is what we are talking about accrual. So now when we talk about accrual, so we have two things. Okay. So this accrual can be either let's say, so this is inventory, okay, inventory accrual, and also it could be the expense accrual. So these are the two accruals that we'll talk about. Okay, so so now when do I want to calculate my accrual is what we are trying to understand here. Okay, so now if we are talking about inventory, which means this accrual will start immediately. Okay, basically the reason why we are creating this accrual, because I wanted to track my invoicing also. Okay, so now for inventory items, definitely I will want this process because I wanted to track my accrual. Okay, so this is first thing. So this will accrue at receipt. Okay, so when I create receipt, so automatically the accrual will be booked in the system. Automatically system will create this accrual. So now when it comes to expense, so we have two options. So one is that I can say either accrue at receipt or I can say accrue at period end. Okay, because when it comes to expense, that is, let's say I'm taking the same utility bills. Okay, so utility bills, so probably I don't want to accrue on immediate basis because that is not going to impact my business. Okay, because this is my inventory, so it might affect my costing and it may affect my on-hand quantity and the realistic data that I wanted to look. Okay, so which means that this will have some controls in terms of handling the transaction. But here it's the business call whether they wanted to go for accrue at receipt or accrue at period end, because they can decide whether they want to use this period end functionality. So now what is the difference between accrue at receipt and accrue at period end? So in the case of accrued receipt, which means that when I create receipt, so this accrual entry is created. So when we say accrued receipt or accrual, so this is the accounting entry that we are talking about. Okay. So now this accrual entry will be created by the system. So if I select accrued receipt, okay, for the expense I'm talking about. Okay, so now period end is something that, so let's say today is 30th of December. Okay, so tomorrow is the last date. So I will say I'll run this accrual process tomorrow. Okay, so this accrual will be created on tomorrow's date. Okay, so that's the option that we have it for period end. Okay, so this will be applicable only for the expense items, but not for the inventory. So inventory, it is only one option, that is accrue at receipt. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is the thing. So here we have selected accrue at sorry, accrue at period end. Okay. Yeah, and then these are the invoicing options and the tax information. So these are something of finance thing, and this is specific to localization. So VAT for India scenario, so will not have it. So probably for the Middle East and their regions, so they will have the VAT and the other information, and to some extent the European countries as well. Okay, so for that, if we want to capture the information, so at business unit level, so we can capture these information. Okay.
Okay. So
So
what are these values that we are entering around, like 120, 10,
yeah,
2210 and all these ones?
correct. So these are basically
Oh,
the segments that we have entered. So if you remember our
okay.
initial session, so we created this chart of accounts, right? So
Mm,
there we gave the segments. So this is our first segment, and this is second segment, and then we
mm,
had account department. So those are the ones, and also we created the values for each one of the segments. So that is, we created 100 and 200, I believe so. So here if you see, so there will be lot of values that is added, but in our case, so we will be getting 100 and 200 because we created only two, which means we had only two company. Okay, and accounts we added multiple, so we will have multiple accounts in the system. And the cost center we have multiple, so which means if I want to represent this particular transaction, so and I send this particular information to GL. So GL will understand in this format. That is, I will need this account code combination, and against this, I will have my debit and credit. So what will have in debit and what will come in credit. So this is how basically we will understand. So this setup, it is done in order to send this information to general ledger. So other than that, the transaction, it is similar to the purchase order. So we also have the transaction that will be created in accounts payable module, that is invoicing. Okay.
Okay, so this based on the requirement, like we have to associate which account you want to create a prepayment or
Yeah,
liability and all. Okay.
yeah, correct. So we will have this business unit. Okay. So now
Mm-hmm.
again I'm going back to the previous session. So if you see, so we had this ledger, and then we had the legal entity, and then we had the business unit. So
Mm.
now, when I'm doing this option for business unit, so I will know which company that I'm doing this configuration. So customer will give, so the business users will give us. So what is the company for this particular business unit, and what is the line of business they wanted to have. So of course they can override this line of business at the level of transaction, but
Okay.
as a defaulting option, we will give it here. So similarly, these accounts. So all these values will be given by the business users. So whatever the values they are giving, so we will just load it. But the skeleton will be created by us. So the structure we will create it. I mean, we in the
Okay.
sense finance team will create.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So this is all about the options for payables and procurement also. Okay.
Yeah, correct. Because here, if you see, so these are basically finance options,
Mm-hmm.
and this is kind of an procurement option. So that's the reason we call this as an common option for procurement and finance.
Okay.
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 Okay, so this is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so common option is one thing. So we have seen this one. So what else is there?
Procurement formulation.
Okay, so this payment term, so this again part of finance, but also we will need some understanding in terms of how this payment term works. Because
Okay.
if you see, so there are certain scenario wherein we will have to attach this payment term to our purchase order. So unless we understand this payment term, so we'll not be able to understand how to create the payment term for the procurement options. Okay, so for that we will create one payment term, and also I'll show how this payment terms are created. Okay, so here if you see, so I'll just say add. Okay,
These payment terms are set for PO invoicing or
this will be used at both the invoicing and at the purchase order, both the
uh,
levels.
there has to be usually organizations will have payment terms, is it?
Yeah, correct. Usually they'll have the payment terms.
Okay.
Especially when we talk about the manufacturing industry, so they
Mm-hmm.
will definitely will have this payment term, because they will not make the immediate payment. So only if I have the immediate payment, so even in that case, so I'll have to use the standard one that is given by Oracle. So the reason being, so this payment term is used to determine when I wanted to make this particular payment. Okay, so
Oh,
for instance, let's say I have created this invoice. Okay, so let's say 30th of December.
okay.
Okay, so now if I have created this invoice on today's date, which means I am booking this invoice, which means this is my invoice date. Okay. So now when will I pay this particular invoice? So this is based on the term that I'm associating. Okay. So let's say I'm saying this is immediate. So which means this will get matured on same date. So that is 30th December. So now let's say I'm saying it will get matured only after 7 days. So I have over the period of 7 days. So what I'll do is that in this case, so it is 6th January 2024 is what the payment date. Okay. So
Okay.
based on this, we are deriving the date of payment. So now, so this
Good.
is invoicing part. So when it comes to procurement, so where exactly we will use in the procurement is that, so let's say I basically wants to generate or create this procurement based on some release. So let's say I am creating this purchase order, okay, as an advance. Okay. Or
Mm.
let's not call it advance, so let's call this as an consolidated PO. Okay. So now for this particular PO, I might have invoice one, okay, and then invoice 2, invoice 3, and invoice 4. Okay, so there are four invoices that will be created using this particular purchase order because this is consolidated purchase order. Okay, so now since I'm having this as a consolidated purchase order, so I will have to say when I want to release this purchase order line number one, or let's say uh, part of the amount. So when I want to release, so usually it is the line number that we will differentiate, because if we are having it as one line, so technically we will not have any challenge in terms of creating as an one line and then matching with the multiple invoices. So that is possible, but I mean in realistic scenario, so I will have line number one for invoice number one and line number two for invoice number two. So similarly, something like this. So I'll have some percentage. So based on that, I will have this. Okay. So now this particular payment term will determine when I wanted to basically release each one of it. Okay.
Okay.
So now I wanted to have this something like this, like release one and release two and release four. Okay. So now this release one is within 3 days. Okay, and release 2 is within 7 days, and this is within 10 days, and this is within 20 days. So which means over the period of a month, so I will basically release the entire purchase order. Okay, so that's the idea behind this. So now if I want to achieve this particular scenario, so what I will do is that, so
Mm-hmm.
here if you see days, so I will say, so here I will have different installments that will be created in the system. So which means
Okay.
in our case it is line number one, two, three, and 4. And here if you see days, for the first one I'll say 3 days. So I'll not be able to use this fixed date, because fixed date
Mm-hmm.
is something that I will have this as a constant value. But in our case it is not the case, because if you see here, so we have 3 days and then we have 7, 10, and 20. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so and this has been split into four, so which means that for each line, so I'll have to say this is 25%. Okay, for the first 25%, so the days would be 3. So now, if we take this scenario, so I'll just take, I'll just put a date here. Okay, okay, so now
Mm-hmm.
this particular purchase order is created on 30th of December 2023. Okay, so now if I release this on third of this thing, so in that case, second Jan is what I will consider as releasing the PO line one. So which means that I'll release PO, I mean my release one will be done in 3 days, and this particular release one will be matched with the invoice number one. So which will be on 2nd of January. So similarly, here if you see, so the second line. So second line will say, so let me just add, okay, and here I'll say 25%, Okay, and here I'll say 3, and then I will have 25%, and I'll say this is 7 days. So similarly, I can add the other days as well. Okay, so this is how basically I'll release these uh, line items, that is release 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
this is achieved through this payment terms.
Okay.
Okay, and also if we attach this payment terms to our supplier, so there is an option to attach the payment term to supplier. So if I'm attaching it at that level, so probably I can match it automatically when I create the procurement, I mean the purchase order, okay? Because whatever the information that is defaulted in the supplier, so that is the one that will be copied to my purchase order. Okay, so now I can use as a defaulting rule the
Okay.
whatever I'm creating here, so I can associate there, okay, at supplier level.
At supplier level, or even it can be associated to PO while creating, or
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now this PO creation, so I can attach it manually, or I can attach it from, I mean, I can get it from supplier. So
okay.
if I want to automatically generate it, basically I will not select my payment terms. Okay, so in that case, I don't need to basically go to the procurement screen and attach it manually. So I'll attach my supplier. So the moment I select the supplier, so system understands and system automatically pulls the payment term. So I don't need to select it manually, but I have given, let's say, this particular payment term, okay, but now this term has changed. So for the first release, I'm not saying it is 25%, it is 40%. So in this case,
Mm-hmm.
I will create another payment term which will give me on the first line, first release, as 40%. So now, since I have defaulted with this particular payment term, so I want to change the payment term. So I will have to override it, which means I'll have to select it manually in the purchase order screen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
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 Okay. So in terms of procurement, so this is the primary thing. So and apart from that, so these are primarily the finance related thing wherein they'll have to give a discount if at all the early payment is made. So let's say the payment term is 30 days. So now if the payment is made, let's say in 5 days, so what is the discount percent? If it is made, let's say in 20 days, so what is the discount that I'm giving? Okay. So now this is basically for the particular line. So we will not be able to give it more than 2, so only 2 lines are allowed. Okay, because morely if I want to give, it is the first and the second discount and the third discount that I will give. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. And now here if you see, so you have this set assignment. So this should match with our configuration. If you remember, so when we created the business unit, so we saw something called reference data set. So that is the one that we are referring here. Okay. So whatever the option that we have given, so that should match with this particular set that we are attaching.
Where from where this set code is coming?
So this is coming from the reference data set that we have
Uh-huh.
created. So
Okay.
if you go to the screen, the business unit, so I'll just go to the business unit.
Financial reporting structure. S- Remove US business unit.
Okay, so this is the set that I'm referring to. So this is what we call reference data set.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, maybe like we have created in the previous instance, right? Like,
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
okay, okay,
Okay.
okay.
So this is first level, and the second one is at the business unit access. So it is unit assignment. So I'll just select the Supremo business unit. Okay, so this is the one. So I'll just select and do and save and close. Okay. So now if I come down, I will have this payment term associated. Yeah, so here if you see, so this option, that is this reference data set what I'm giving here, so this should
Okay.
match with my the earlier screens option that I'm giving. So there if I have given E30 and here I have given common, so which means that that particular payment term will not be visible for me because to my business unit I have given here as a common. So unless I create it with common, I will not be able to see that particular payment term.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so this is how basically the access is controlled. Okay. Yeah. So that's about the payment terms.
So like payment terms, will you be creating any with any scenario now with the payment term and later will you be associating to supplier or like what is the plan?
Yeah, so the payment term is, I mean, we already have this. So when we see the procurement, that is purchase order, so I'll explain you because so there are two things that I have planned for today's session. So one
Okay.
is that with invoice and the other thing is with the advance scenario, with the prepayment.
Okay.
Okay. So for the invoice, so it's the basically the payment term is considered our implemented at the payable level. But when we talk about the advance, so then the payment term is basically starts from procurement. So this payment term
Oh,
definition and using that, so we'll see when we see the advance. But for
okay.
the this thing, so we are using the standard one. That is for the P2P flow. That is matching with the purchase order. Okay. So
Okay.
now, this payment, so this particular instance will have a lot of payment terms that is created. So since
Mhm.
this is demo instance, so we already have a lot of payment terms created. So including the milestone based releases. Okay, so that is also there. So I'll just
Okay.
open that. Okay, but in terms of options, so these are the ones that we are having it. So when we are creating the purchase order for the advance, so I'll just open and show you so how this particular option is created, and then we will try to create this purchase order, and then I'll show this P2P cycle.
Okay.
Okay, so that is one thing, and then we have something called procurement document numbering. Okay, so now this basically determines how I wanted to have my purchase order number. Okay, so now if I say add, so I will have my document type. So here I can select either the purchase order or the requisition. Okay, so let's say I'm selecting the purchase order. So now I have my entity. So here one thing to be noted is that so this will work at the legal entity level, but at the business unit level. So if I want to use, so then I will not be able to use it for the purchase order. Okay. So I'll just show you for the requisition also. So requisition,
Why
if
do
you
you
see,
create this numbering? I mean, is it like the PO number you are saying? That number,
yeah,
like
PO
what should be
number.
the format?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, okay.
PO number. Okay.
Okay. So, but like if it is a PO number, but again, okay. So basically, this is for numbering configuration. This numbering you can configure either for requisition or the purchase order. like whatever document you are showing here in this drop down. For all those,
Yeah,
we can
correct.
define the numbering here.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so now here, if I'm talking about the requisition, so I can say this is basically by the business unit that I can do this setup. But if we talk about the purchase order, so then I'll not be able to do it by business unit because in at a standard this thing, so we'll have requirement. So in terms of creating the purchase order by business unit, because there are some customers which we have seen, but in Oracle we don't have this option as of now. So we have the idea lab. So idea lab is something that if we do not have something, we can request to Oracle. So Oracle will be releasing it as part of next or upcoming releases. Okay, so there is no definite time for that, but we have this in the idea lab. Okay, so we are not sure when this idea will be picked up and created by business unit, but for now we don't have that option. So let's say one legal entity is having let's say 20 business unit. So now business unit 1 will have the purchase order number 1, and business unit 2 will have purchase order number 2. So this is the option that we have in terms of purchase order. But requisition, I can create it by business unit. Okay.
Okay.
So I can select the legal entity and then I can give the numbering sequence. Okay, so I can give the prefix and suffix. So let's say I wanted to create the sequence something like TATA for Tata I'm implementing. So I will want to have this prefix as TA or probably the TCS. Okay, TCS, and then the starting number starts from 10,001. So I can give the 10,001, or if I want to have the suffix, I can have that as well. Okay. So basically, based
Okay.
on the information that I'm giving, so I'll have my preview.
So like sometimes they will have some hyphen or in between or slash at the end, and after that number will get generated.
Yeah.
So all those we have to do it here only.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So
Suffix is the next number, right? Okay.
yeah.
And
Correct.
it will automatically, okay, it will just follow this format, but automatically it will get
Yeah.
incremented
Automatically.
whenever we are creating.
Yeah.
What exactly is sold to legal entity mean? Sold to legal entity. Determinant type.
Yeah. So this is nothing but the legal entity that we are referring to. So sold to is nothing but, so to which entity this particular purchase order is being made. So now let's say I am creating from business unit 1. So now this business unit is associated with the legal entity 1. Okay. So sold
Mhm.
to meaning I'm trying to purchase this. So now sold meaning it is not we are selling. So supplier is selling to us, which means to which legal entity supplier is selling this particular product. So this is what we are referring to, sold to legal entity.
Okay.
Okay.
Supplier is selling to that legal entity.
Yeah, correct. Legal entity or business unit we can refer. But here in this case, we don't have the option of business unit. So we'll have to talk about the legal entity.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the process. So similar to that, we can create it for the other documents as well. So for example, if I want to create it for requisition, so then I can select the again the this thing option of selecting the business unit, and then I can associate. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is about the numbering, I mean the document numbering that we have. Okay. And then we have the purchasing line types basically. So this is what I said. So since this is custom, I mean the demo instance, so we have a lot of custom line types that is created. So this is the screen where we'll say, okay, so it's not mandatory, or usually will not say this is three-way matched as an line type. So line type will be always, whether this is in goods or this is in service, or I will have this flexibility in terms of booking the items with the variable price or this is fixed price. So all those things we will do it, but this will not mention it because three-way matching is the way of matching invoice with the procurement documents. It could be the purchase order, it could be the receipt or the inspection report. Okay, so that's about it. But this will not have it since this is test environment. We are having this. Okay. So now, if I want to create new line item, so then I'll have to come to this screen and give the naming convention. Okay, so similar to the goods. So if I want to add just the service, so I'll name this as a service. Okay, and then here if you see the product type, so I'll say service. I'll not book this as an this thing. Okay, so now this is nothing but the default option. So if this is the line type, so what should be the accrual matching option that I wanted to have? Okay, so now this can be overridden. Okay, so if I want to change from two-way to three-way, so that is possible. If I change it when I'm creating this particular purchase order, I can do that. Okay, so this is the option to create that custom line type.
Yeah, like I don't know where do we use this line types like while creating PO, is there an option that you choose what
Yeah,
is the line type or
yeah, there we have option. So whether this particular purchase order that I'm creating is for the goods or whether for the service or it is on fixed price service or whether this is a variable price service, all those things I can select there. So based on the selection, system is going to give me these options.
oh okay. So based on that selection, match level approval level 2 means it will match the order
Correct, purchase order.
purchase order number of lines it will match or order quantity it will match.
No, I mean, it's not that match that we are talking about here. So this is matching when we create this particular invoice. So
Hmm.
whether I'm matching with the purchase order or receipt or the inspection report. So that level of
Oh,
matching we are talking about.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay.
I'm not able to visualize like where exactly in the PO we'll use the screen. Maybe like we'll come back again. Like while creating the
Okay.
PO, maybe I'll get it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
here, all we have to do is like we have to create a line types here, is it?
Yeah, correct.
Line types
I mean,
and
it's not. Yeah, so this is not mandatory setup. So if at all I want to create a custom line type, so that is when I'll have to come to the screen and create it. But by default, so I will have the standard one that is goods and the fixed price services. So this I will have it as a default. So if I want to customize this, so that is when I will come to this.
okay, what is the benefit like of defining the line type? Is it like for categorization? I want to use this
Uh,
or how is it?
no, this line type in real time scenario, if you see, so we will not have a custom one that is created. Okay, but
Okay.
as an option we have it. So there are certain business processes if they are
Hmm.
processing rent and the other charges also through purchase order, so that is when we'll come to the screen and create a custom line type. So that this is for the general goods that we are doing or the general service or we are doing a specific service, so by then we can do this
Uh-huh.
selection. Because for the
Okay.
rent, I'll do two-way matching, that is matching with the purchase order. Because for rent payment, we are not going to create the receipt because logically we will not need receipt because I'm paying rent. Okay. But then if we talk about the other purchase is I'm receiving the item, so I'll say for the asset item, I can create a line type called the asset goods also. Okay. And here I can say it is three-way matching, matching with the receipt. So now I can create my goods with four-way matching. So which will match with my inspection report. Okay. So similarly, based on the requirement, we can create it, but it is not that realistically business wants to customize this option because it is understandable for them in terms of using the system.
Okay.
Okay, but as an option we have. So if at all customer is asking for it, so we have this option to customize it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so that is about the line type. Okay, and what else is important? Yeah, so the unit of measure, this is basically the standard one that we have. Okay, so now if I want to understand this, so unit of measure is something that I will attach to my this thing item created in the inventory master. So I will have to have certain unit of measure in the system. Okay, so this is nothing but a master. Okay, by default I will have the bots each piece and something like that. Okay, so if I want to create a custom one, so let's say I want to create this square inch, so then I'll have to come to the screen and create the unit of measure code, and then I can say the unit of measure name and the other information. Okay, and then
Okay.
this is done. So if I want to basically set the conversion, so I can do this conversion. So conversion is when I have two unit of measure that is associated with the item. Okay, so when do I have two unit of measure? So let's say I am having this soap purchase. Okay, so the soap purchase, if I'm talking about one particular piece, so it is the unit of measure is piece. But then I'm not
Okay.
going to purchase one piece or two piece, but instead I'll be purchasing probably the 10 pieces or 20 pieces. Okay, probably I'll have to use it in my hotel business, or probably I'll distribute to someone. So some other purpose I'll be doing this. Okay, so now I'll not be purchasing in piece, because piece is something kind of a retail purchase, but I don't want to do this purchase. So I will purchase in bots. Okay, so in this case, so this will be bots. So now I will have to set this conversion. So where if I'm talking about bots, so it is the 12 pieces that I'm talking. But if I'm talking about piece, it is one piece. Okay. So now if I set this particular conversion, so then system will understand, yes, if it is one bots, which means that I'm selling 12 pieces to this particular customer. Okay,
Okay.
so that is about this conversion. So I can make this conversion.
Defining a UOM name and conversion.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so in
this
this
is where,
case, it will be like 12 or so will be
yeah, correct. I'll say this is
waiting
12.
here. Okay,
Okay,
and base UOM name, class name,
yeah,
and date.
yeah.
This class
So,
name, is it like again?
yeah, class name is basically whether this is piece or whether this is bots, I can say. Or let me just take one this thing.
Manage UOM classes. Okay, you have conversion also and class also.
Yeah,
Okay, piece.
one minute. I'll
It's
just
not anything. Case or
each.
each for each. 25. Okay.
So I'll just take this class. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
for this, if you see, it is the quantity that you are okay, I think
The
item class.
class was each.
Yeah, no, the UM is each. So class is something like an quantity actually.
No, for that UOM, the class was each or it was written like in front of that.
Yeah, so this UM is each, and the class is quantity. So this is not fixed one. So if I want to determine, but mostly it is the quantity that is being used. But if I'm talking about probably the barrel or something, so then I can create my own item class code. but in this case, it is the quantity that we are talking about. I mean, even the implementations that I have done, so it's the quantity that I have set it up. So this will change, but this is usually the standard one that we are using, that is quantity.
Yeah.
Okay, because even if it is kilogram, it is again the quantity that we'll talk about. Since this is test environment, so we are seeing a lot of data with different things, but usually it is the quantity.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is for some construction that they have put in, so they are seeing this is area.
So what do we see like for area if you go to classes? So there will be class name called area, is it?
Yeah, correct.
And in that, what they will be defined like area
Yeah,
conversion.
yeah. So I'll just open this. So this is one such definition that is created. So that is square meter, and I can define acres, I can define square feet, and I can define square meter. So something like that I can add. Yeah, it is hectare, it is square foot, and square centimeter. So something like that I can add, but the class will
Okay.
remain still as an area.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
this conversion is basically between this and this. So if it is one hectare, so what would be my square foot is what we are trying to define in the uh, conversion.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any such conversion is defined here?
Yeah, conversion will be there. So I'll just open this.
This is the one, is it?
Yeah,
Square inch area.
yeah. So there are a lot of conversion that we
Oh,
have defined.
okay.
So one such if you see, so for one case, in one case, so I'll have 24 pieces. So piece is what
24
defined as
each and
yeah,
quantity.
yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's about unit of measure. Okay. So then these are basically your optional setups because as I said, so if you want to create or manage your imports, so using your the method of shipment, whether it could be through what do you call through waterways or it could be through air, so something like that. So now if you want to define, so you can define and attach your inventory organization. Okay, so that's the setup. So let's say
But
DHL.
this carrier, like, will it be visible while creating PO or how is
No,
it?
we have a column called shipment method. So there we can
Oh,
attach, but that
I
is off.
see.
So if you want to see, yes, it is visible, but actively this is not used unless
Uh-huh.
we are doing the import transaction.
Unless we do the import transaction. Okay.
Yeah, because that is when we'll have the carrier and the other things. So if I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
so let's say I'm importing coir from China. So now I will have this carrier name. So probably I'll just use the standard on DHL or something like this. Okay. So now here I'll define the carrier name as DHL. Okay. And here I'll say shipment method, and here I'll have to give the mode of transport and the other information and associate with my inventory organization. Okay, so now whatever the inventory organization that I have associated, if I try to create a purchase order, so what I will see there is that I'll see this carrier name. So this is the only information I'll be seeing there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so that is about creating the career, the method of shipping, basically. Okay, so that is about at high level. Okay, yeah. So these are the primary things in terms of creating the purchase order or creating the requisition. Okay, so these are the primary configurations that we'll have. So I'll just go back to the screen. Okay, so this we have seen. So what are the tasks that we need to create? So if I want to set it up, the procurement common transaction, if I want to create, so what are the common options that we'll have to enable? So that we have seen it, okay. And then we have configured the required common procurement task, okay. So that also we have done it, okay. And we have completed the required purchasing configurations. Okay, so this part we have done it. So I'll just mark this.
In the purchasing configuration, what all were there? This one, is it the managing the options for this procurement and payables one, and what we did, the payment terms, what we did,
Yeah,
that comes
yeah,
in the purchasing task, is it?
yeah, correct. So what we
Those
will
two.
have is that. So first thing is that we will have the creation of employee, and second thing is creation of procurement agent, and then we'll have the common options for procurement and financials, and then we'll have the PO and the requisition numbering, and then we'll have the business function for requisition, and then business function for procurement. Okay, and then the UAM and the UAM conversion, and
Mm.
then the optional setups like the career and the other things. Okay, so these are the primary things that we will need in terms of creating the purchase order. So these are
Okay.
the common functions and the setups that we will have to do.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so the next one that I have is that the approval. Okay, so we'll not be able to take you through the same sequence that we have because so this will create a break in between this. So to
Correct.
maintain the flows, I'm just taking this, but we'll make sure that we cover all the topics. Okay, so
Right.
if anything is missed out, maybe you can let me know so we can
Sure.
have that. Okay. Yeah, so the next thing that I'm taking is the approval management. Okay, so now when we talk about the approvals, so we are basically talking about two approvals. So the first thing that we are talking about is the requisition. Okay, so for now, since we are doing this two-way matching, so I'll talk about both the requisition and the purchasing. Okay, so for now we'll see so that we can say that we have seen this particular approval model completely because we'll have approval for both the requisition and purchasing. Okay, so the setup part we'll see for both, but in terms of creating the transaction, so we will see this when we create the three-way matching. Okay, because now we are creating two-way, which means that we are creating the purchase order and then we are seeing the P2P flow. Okay, so when we come back to the three-way matching, so I'll show from requisition. Okay.
Okay.
So, so now, so why do we need this requisition? I mean, the approval is that. So let's say, so there are multiple reasons. So one such is that. So if I want to basically control my uh, purchases, or if I want to control my requisition, so I will have to enable this approval because this approval will make sure that whatever the fund that I have with me, so I'm using it effectively, or I'm doing this judicious utilization. Okay, so to make sure this, so what I'm doing is that, so I'm setting this approval rules. Okay, So each company might have, or each customer might have different requirements. So in terms of managing the purchasing, okay, so we will see a few requirements. So what are the requirements that we will have when we try to implement this application Oracle Cloud? Okay, so what are the options, or what are the common requirements that business will ask for? So we'll see that. Okay, so probably apart from that, you will also get new requirements, but I'm just explaining. So whatever I have seen in the this thing implementation. Okay. So now to start with, so I'll just give one such basic scenario. So here, if you see, so the scenario is that, so I have my structure something like this. So this is my buyer, okay, and then I have my manager. So this is my immediate manager. Okay, so I would say this is my procurement agent. Okay, and then I have my procurement manager. Okay, and then I have my procurement head. Okay, so now this procurement agent is what we are referring to the buyer. So now I have two level of approval in this particular requirement. So now how do I want to basically define my approval rule is that, so there are some scenario that I don't want to take this particular purchase order as an approval flow, because if you see, so it's not that always this manager is going to just check this purchase order that we have raised, and then he will review all the items and then he will approve it. Okay, because there are certain cases where we will have to do this override approval process, and there are some cases that we will not need this approval at all, because let's say I am purchasing some item. So there is some item that is requested. So let's say some stationery items for let's assume that's something in an amount of 200. Okay, so there are some scenarios where you will need this purchase order so that you will have the better track in the system. So this process will start with the requisition. Okay, so requisition part we'll see later, but to understand, so the item is requested. No, so now I'm creating this purchase order. So for this 200, if I'm going to get the approval from manager, so it will not work out in this way. So instead, this I'll say for my rule one, I'll say for my rule one, so I'll say this particular item should be auto approved if, so when we talk about the approval rules, so there are two things. So one is if and the action is that. So if the business unit is, let's say, BP, BU. So if this is the business unit and the amount is lesser than or equal to let's say 500. Okay, so lesser than or equal to 500, and this is created by buyer 1. Okay, so it could be some other name. Okay, so let me just call this as Suresh, or let me call this as Anand. Okay, so if this purchase order is created by Anand and this is with the below 500, so in this case, the purchase order that I have created is for the amount of 200. Okay, and the business unit that I'm using is BPBU. Okay, if these three conditions are matching, so then what I want to do is that auto approve. So auto approve is the action that I'm doing here. Okay, so this is one such option. So commonly we will get it from the business. Okay, so now the second thing is that, so I will need something like a department level approval. Okay, so now when we say department level approval, so which means, so again I'll take if and action. Okay, so now if again this condition will be same, so that is So now here, so instead of saying, so this is below 500. So let me call this as below 10,000. Okay, so if this is below 10,000 and created by buyer Anand, and this is the business unit. So what I want to do is that, so I want to basically build supervisory hierarchy. Okay, so now supervisory hierarchy will work in this way. So I have Anand here. Okay, and then the manager is Manoj, and then I have my procurement head. Okay, so my procurement head is, let's say, Ishwar. Okay, so this is my hierarchy. So now what I will do is that, so when I create employee record, so that is in the manage user. So when I create the employee record, so what I will do is that, so for Ishwar, so I will not associate the manager. So in this case, manager would be null. Okay, but then when I create Manoj, so the manager would be Ishwar. Okay, so similarly, when I create Anand, so it would be Manoj who would be the manager. So now in this scenario, so the process will go something like this. So I will create my purchase order, okay, and the purchase order amount is let's say 7,000. Okay, so since this has crossed the first rule, that is 500, so I will have to take this into consideration. So I might have the third or the fourth rule as well. But in this rule, if you see, so if this is below 10,000, which means above 500, so this has crossed. Okay, so now this rule will be applied. So now this particular purchase order will be submitted for approval. Okay, so now first level approval will be done by Manoj. So Manoj will, so here either Manoj can approve or reject it or request for more information. So if it is rejected, so I'll have to change the information. So the comment section will be there, so where Manoj will say that these are the changes that I want to make, or let's say I will not approve for 7,500, so probably I'll approve for 4,000 or something like this. Okay, so now I'll have to change the information, and then I will submit this particular purchase order to the manager. So now Manoj is going to approve it. Okay, so once this is done, so it will go to Ishwar. Okay, so this is the option that we have in terms of supervisory hierarchy. Okay, so this is one thing. So now I might have another requirement. So wherein this particular department will not be used in a sense. Here, if you see, so it's only inside the procurement team that we are talking about. But here, I don't want to go with this sequence. Okay, so instead, I wanted to have this approval that is completed. Okay, and then it will go to finance manager. Okay, so let's say
Mhm.
Akash is, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Akash is the finance manager. So now, in this case, what I can do is that, so I'm not changing my if condition. So probably I'll change the amount. Okay, so in this case, probably the amount will be more than this. So I'll say this is 50,000. Okay, and it is created by Anand. Okay, and if this is the condition, so the way that I wanted to take it is that, so it is not only inside this requirement, because when we talk about paying this particular amount to the supplier, so it always handles with the finance team as well. Okay, so now I'll have to loop in the finance team also. But here if you see, so this is inside the department, so I can say that, so I can set the system in this format, but I will not be able to say that Akash is the manager of Manoj, because logically he is from different department and Manoj is from different department, so this will not work out. So in this case, I will have to define something called approval group. Okay. So now what exactly is approval group is something that I can build my own hierarchy. So irrespective of the department that is associated with this particular person, so I can link between the person to person. Okay. So here, okay, so here again I can link between multiple approval groups also, that is also possible. But as a standard one, so what we have is that, so I can associate different levels. So now I'll say Anand is submitting this request. Okay. So I'm not saying Anand because it could be created by Anand or some other person also. If I remove this condition that is created by Anand, so it is not going to validate who has entered this transaction, but instead it is going to validate if it is within this particular business unit and within this amount that we have specified. Okay, so this is what system is going to understand. So now what I will do is that, so my first level is Manoj, and then I'll say after this it should go to Akash. So now what I will do is that, so instead of mentioning or specifying this hierarchy, okay, so I will attach the approval group. So this is the approval group that I have created. So that is separate setup that I'll have to do. Okay. So once this approval group is created, so then I will have to come to this screen and attach the approval group. So in the action, so I'm not going to specify this one, okay, the hierarchy. So instead, I'll associate the approval group that I have created. Okay. So now
Okay.
this is one case, and the next scenario, what we might get as a common one. Okay. So again, we'll take the rent expenses. Okay, so the rent expenses, if you see, so for this particular building, so let's assume that this particular building is used by a particular department. Okay, so let's say IT. So IT is the department that is using this entire building for their activities. So probably they might be involved into the projects and the other activities. Okay, so they are using this entire building. So now this is being handled by them, and the rent is paid by the finance department. Okay, so this is the process. So now, since this is involved inside this, so what I will do is that, so I'll say again, I'll take this. Okay, so now in this scenario, so I'm not saying this is the amount that I want to capture. So I'm not setting any limit here. So I'll say if this is created by Anand, okay, and this is within the department, okay. So what I will do is that, so in this case, so it is the cost center that I'll say, cost center, or we can call it department, okay. So if this is within this department IT and it is created by Anand and it's for this particular business unit, so then what I will have to do is that, so I will have to say directly this is the user, because I don't need to get the approval from the other person. So it's the IT head who has to approve. So now I will not be creating multiple options in this case. So I'll say this is the condition, and I will directly say it is Ganesh. So Ganesh is the IT head. Okay. So now this person will directly approve this request. Okay, so I'll say this is the condition, and I'll say it is user specific, and directly I'll associate this one user directly to this particular rule. Okay, so now,
Okay.
I also have some other requirement. Okay, so let me just say this. Okay, so I have, so again I'll take this flow. I mean, this is my hierarchy. Okay, so now let's say I have created this particular purchase order. Okay, so in terms of this thing, I'm not changing the condition, so condition is still same. Okay, but now I don't want to have the sequence followed, meaning, so let's say I am having a manager hierarchy defined in the system. Okay, sorry. So I have defined the flow in the system, which means the position hierarchy. But then let's assume that this particular manager is on leave. Okay. So now I cannot wait for, so let's say he went on vacation. So it will take another, let's say, 6 days for him to return to office. Okay. So now I cannot wait for 6 days, because I have already raised this purchase order on a demand basis. Okay. So now I want to override this particular manager. So there are two ways. So at the transaction level, I can say I can override this particular manager, and from this thing, that is from Manoj, I can say this is, this will go to Ishwar. Okay, so instead of this, so what I want to do is that I want approval rules to be handled. So in this case, what I will do is that, so I'll say this is parallel. Okay, so now what exactly is parallel is, so parallel is a scenario where this particular request will go to both the managers. Okay, so it will be notified to both
Okay.
Ishwar
So whether
and
both
Manoj.
have to approve, or like that also we can define, or either of one also approves,
Yeah, it
it
is
will go
either
through.
one of them will approve.
Okay.
So if both the user will approve, so then it is this particular this thing. So this is basically the serial approval. So which means that both of them will have to approve it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I can say, so once Manoj approves, then Akash will approve. But this is the scenario where this particular line of approval, so I wanted to skip. Okay, so for this scenario, so I'll say, so this is the Manoj will not approve, so instead Ishwar will approve directly. So the
Okay.
moment I say submit for approval, so this notification is sent to both the persons. So whoever approves first will get approved immediately. So I don't need to wait for the other person to approve this request. Okay.
Okay.
So this is one such requirement. Okay, okay. So these are the standard requirements that we will get in terms of creating the approval rules. Okay. So what will change here is that, so what might you will see as a new is that, so this if condition, because so the condition, if you see, so the standard options, so whatever the things that I have seen, so I have just given here. But instead of this, so this is standard one. So whatever the implementation that you are going to do, so as a standard, you will see these things. But apart from this, if you have a new requirement, so let's say you wanted to have based on the distribution. Okay, so which means, so now one such scenario that we have seen is that based on the cost center. So let's say I don't want to see the cost center, so I wanted to see company. So that is, if it is a company, let's say 100. Okay. Then I wanted to use route one. Or I wanted to initiate the approval process as this option. Supervisory hierarchy. Okay. So then you can do accordingly, you can select the fields. So this if condition is nothing but just selecting the fields. So this is nothing but filtration criteria where if this matches in any of the transaction or the purchase order, so then this is the action that system should do. So whether it should get the approval automatically, or we will use this approval group, or we'll use the hierarchy, or I'm going to use the parallel approval or the serial approval or the user specific. So these are the options that we have in the system. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if I want to basically build this approval flow, so based on what we are seeing, so we should be able to do any sort of requirements configuration in the system. Okay, because mostly these are the requirements that you will see in the industry. So that is what I have explained also. Okay, so now I'll just show what are the things that we have in terms of BPM. Okay, that is approvals in the system. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a task called approval management. So here I'll have for both requisition and the purchase order. Okay, so for both it is same. So I'll just open and show you so how we see this. But in terms of options, so it is same thing that we'll be talking about. Okay, but then two different documents are there. So for requisition, I will need separately, and for purchase order, we will need separately. Okay. So for now, since we are talking about two-way matching, so I'll show the
Hey,
purchase order.
Arun, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like there was some network issue. I got reconnected. So when you opened that approval screen at that time, I missed.
Okay. Yeah.
This Excel is everything is covered. Like in the UI, you clicked on that approval
Yeah.
management, right? So,
Yeah. Correct.
so like where did we navigate in the application?
Yeah. I'll show that. So in the application, if you see, so we are in setup and maintenance. Okay, so
Yeah,
this
yeah,
probably you will
yeah.
know. Okay, so
Yes,
from
yes.
the landing page, so you'll have
Yeah,
to go to the setup and maintenance. Okay,
yeah.
so here I'll have to select the procurement. So here I have a task called approval management. So
Management.
now
Okay.
if I click this, I will have separately for the requisition transactions and separately I'll have for purchase order transactions. Okay. So for
Document approval is different, or it's same as PO approval, or PO document approval is different.
yeah, so for purchase order, so this is the approval that we'll have to enable, and for requisition, that is the approval that we'll have to enable. So these are two
Okay.
different setups that we'll have to do. So if I do
Okay.
only for purchase order, so I will not be able to complete my requisition transaction because I have not specified whether this is auto approved or this is
Mm-hmm.
the manager. So I will have to specify if I want to use this requisition functionality. So if I'm not using
Okay.
requisition, so then I can straight away go to this purchase order document approval.
Hmm.
Okay, so we will come back to this requisition approval. So once we see this three-way matching, okay. So now what we will see is that the purchase order approval because we are talking about two-way matching, okay. But in
Okay.
terms of configuration, it is same but two different screens.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so these options are basically the given by Oracle. So we will not
I
be
see.
able to create new rule here, okay, because these are different stages that we can use. So,
Mm-hmm.
so mostly if you see, so it's the pre-approval or the post-approval that we will talk about, okay. So here, so what I will do is that, so I'll take the serial because I don't want to use the parallel. So I'll talk about the serial one. Okay, first. So
So
now,
pre-approval meaning before even we create a PO, is it?
no, this is just the process of initiating the approval. So whether I want to save the transaction and then I will initiate or whether I have certain prerequisites in terms of what do you call the processing I'm talking about. not in
Mhm.
terms of transaction. So
Oh,
transaction, definitely I will have to create this
oh.
purchase order document first, and then I will
Mhm.
have to create initiate the approval. So
Okay,
this stage what we are talking about is how this approval engine will work. So
I see.
this approval engine, whether this will initiate first and then the notification will be sent, or
Oh,
this will initiate and then the notification is pushed. Okay, so
okay,
that's what we are referring to this.
okay, okay.
Okay, so I'll just select this one and I'll say edit rules. Okay, so this is where we are writing the rules. Okay, so here if you see, so we have simple rule that is defined in the system. So this is for approved, automatically approving this transaction. So this is for the first requirement that we have. Okay. So now the rule that we have written. So let me just edit this.
If anything below 50,000. Okay,
This we have given it as 500 basically. So
500. Okay.
50,000 is for the approval group.
Okay.
Okay.
If anything below 500 or equal to 500, auto approve. Okay.
Yeah, correct. Okay. So for this, I'll just say create a new. Okay. So let me call this below 500. Okay.
Okay.
I'll say okay. And here I'll have to give the condition. So I'll just say add add condition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Task attribute. What is the
so
type you
here
have now?
let me search for the business unit first. So attribute meaning the fields. So fields is what we are referring to the attribute. Okay, so you can see the dimension. So dimension will give us the information. So attribute is just the technical word to use this dimension as an attribute. Okay, so let me search for the business unit.
Attribute dimension. Document line.
Yeah, we'll have.
Here you will not get the view, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have this one here.
It's
I think it's cross business unit or something.
so at the PO header level, uh,
Okay.
or the document line level. Attributes. What are we searching here?
So I'm just trying to give this condition. So wherein if this is the buyer and this is the amount below this amount, so I wanted to set this automatically approved transaction. So that's what
Okay.
I'm trying to do.
So, like, do you need to search buyer here, choose the attribute here, and then like buyer name or those things
Yeah,
only?
I am searching for buyer name actually, but I couldn't get exact.
Oh, buyer name will be coming here. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, we'll get the buyer name in this list. So,
okay, requisition view. We reached to T dimension buyer.
Yeah, it is here.
Buyer, yeah. So at the header level, we are looking for the attribute buyer. And, if the buyer is equal to this name, that is our condition.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So
In user.
yeah, I think this is the user name. Okay, so I'll just say, okay, so this is the user. Okay, so if I create this purchase order transaction, so using this user, then the purchase order will not require approval, which means that this particular transaction will be approved automatically. So this is my if condition. Okay, so now if I want to add the second condition, so I can just say below. Okay, and I can add my second condition. So let me say
So
uh,
again, like we have to choose the attribute as amount, is it? But
yeah.
like amount will be at always at it is at the header level or document line.
uh, Amount will be at, I mean, we'll have at both the header and line, but it should have lot of fields with amount, but I'm not sure why I'm not getting this.
Dimension we are searching. Okay. Whether price will come or amount will be there.
Yeah, we'll have amount actually, so we'll have to give the amount
No, you
there. So
move to
based on that,
AT. AT word AM it will be there. No, you have to scroll up amount. AW. Now B came.
uh, no, not A. I mean that is attribute actually. So attribute meaning the information whatever we couldn't find in this list. So if I want to use the additional ones, so that is what we are referring to this thing, the
Okay.
attribute. So that is kind of an additional information that we are capturing. But this attribute is different. This attribute is a common word. Again, this is kind of a technical word to say that this is the field. So the exact word is
Right.
field. So
Field. Yes. Yes. Field.
yeah,
So we are searching now field amount.
yeah, the amount is what I'm searching for actually. So yeah, we have the change in order, but then for the order, so we'll have the amount.
Search in the field. There it is not coming yet.
Yeah,
AM.
there I couldn't get it exactly.
Document ordered
Maybe I'll
amount.
use the total amount.
That is
Yeah, it
distribution.
is here
Dimension
actually.
is
Yeah,
distribution.
so yeah, this is the one. So the header amount. So this is
Okay.
something of an distribution. So when we talk about the purchase order, so we have the header information, line, and distribution. So this I'm taking it from header because that's
Hmm.
the total amount that we'll be considering. So if we want to take it from the line or distribution, so that is when I'll go for line or distribution. Okay, so in this
Okay.
case, I'm taking document ordered amount. Okay, so I'll just say okay, and here the amount is 500. I'll say less than 500. Okay, so I'll just say okay. And now if this condition matches, so I can add the action saying automatically approve this purchase order.
So we can choose this rule. I mean, automatically this rule will be applied, is it? Or We have
Yeah,
to.
automatically this will be applied.
Oh,
So if this condition matches, then system automatically considers this approval. Okay, so here if you see, so we have approval required and automatic. So information is something kind of an FYI. So there is no action to be made in this thing. So this is kind of an in application notification. So this is different. But what we are doing here is that the automatic, because if I say approval record, which means I can say whether this is an approval group or this is an hierarchy or this is single user that I'm talking about. Okay. So these two things, that is job level and position level, will come into this thing. So when I have the HCM module or the payroll module implemented, because I will need these two components from the payroll module. Okay, so if that is matching, then approve this request is what we'll write as a condition. But in this case, we are not using these two. Okay, I'll say this is approval is not required and this is automatically approved. Okay, so I can just select this is automatically approved. Okay, I'll say okay. So now when this rule is created, so I'll have to save and deploy this particular rule that I have created. So deploy is the process of validating if I have created the rule correctly. If there is any issue in this, so basically it will tell me. Okay, so that's the option. Okay,
okay.
so
So if any reason deployment is failed, like where do you check the any errors, like what reason it is failed
yeah,
and all like
so
that?
yeah, so in the screen itself will get it is due to
Okay,
this error, so it is not deployed. So you'll get on the screen. So something like a pop-up.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have created this approval rule. So we'll just try to create one purchase order with amount, let's say 200. Okay, so
Okay. So typically, like for a standard on an average implementation, there might be certain approvals also that needs to be created, right?
yeah, correct. So
Okay. Okay.
we'll have at least these two rules that will be created in any implementation.
Okay. Okay. Custom rule is not possible.
Custom role you're asking?
Rule.
Rule. I mean, whatever we have written is what we'll call it as an custom
Oh,
ruler.
okay. Okay.
Because by standard, we will not have this role part. So it is whatever the role that we are writing, it is custom one. Because
Custom.
by
Oh.
default, we will not have any rules added to this.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, so this is basically the dashboard. So it's something of an immediate actionable items that we will see in this dashboard. So if you see here, so we'll see whatever the orders are processed and which is in pending status or which is not yet approved. So if I have changed some information to my purchase order, so now if I want to track this to my approval, so then I'll have to see here. Okay, so this is kind of an common dashboard for the purchase order, so wherein I can track my purchases. So if I have the purchase order in closed status, or if I have some rejected transaction, or
Mhm.
probably due to any issue, so let's say I have configured the approval rules incorrectly. So now if I submit this approval, so it is not going to go to the approval because system will not understand whether this should get approved automatically or this should go to approver one or two. Okay, so then I'll see that in this particular option called failed for submission, if it is rejected, then I'll have. Okay, so similarly with invoice holds. Okay, so basically these
Mm.
are immediate actionable items. Okay, So here on the right hand side, if you see, so you'll have this task list. So in this, if I say, let's say create order,
We are doing create order.
yeah. So
First choose orders.
I think I did not give BU access. Let me
For
just
this user,
so
Supremo BU user not in, but we have chosen right in several.
yeah, but the role is not given, I think, because the role we added later because initially we gave it for procurement preparer or procurement manager something, I think. So let's check once.
Data SCC access.
Okay, I think the user is FinIMPL 21. Okay, I
21
think
or 2?
we created with this one. I think we attached the different user because we attached fin dot user, but then we are using this one. Let me.
Pin IMPL 21. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but there we in the rule, in the approval rule, so we have given
There we choose
as
Fin IMPL.
no, I think we gave fin dot user. I think so.
Pin dot user. Yes, yes. You are. But that is at the approval stage, no?
Yeah, correct. But if I create this particular purchase order with different user or the different buyer, so system will not consider this for the approval because we have
Sure.
specifically given if this is the buyer, then initiate this approval, right? So if
Correct.
at all we want to use that option, so we'll have to give the correct buyer actually.
Okay. Yes.
So this is fin dot user. Yeah, this is the one.
Employee.
Okay, for this there is no role associated. Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll try to change the rule.
In the
Uh,
rule itself, right? We'll make it as a 21. But if you make it to 21 there, while creating the PO, you'll get the BU, is it?
yeah, I mean that is basically based on the role, but I'm not sure which role we
Yeah.
missed to assign. So probably we might have missed any role to be assigned
Right.
because if the role and the procurement agent is created, then we should be getting there in
Right.
the list of value. Okay, so this is the one that we created, and here we just have to change this to. I think the user name or the buyer name should be different. Or let me just check in the procurement agent first. I think we created as a procurement agent, but let's check.
Agent is in Carol.
Let's try to create because if it is already there, it will not allow us to create. But I remember that we created, but I'm not sure if that did not get saved.
That gave an error at that time of some incident.
Yeah, maybe because of that, I think so.
Switching between the UI is a very tedious process. You just
Yes.
know.
This is inactive. Okay, let me just try to associate this with the user account. This is 21. Okay, so just save this and then the procurement agent. Okay, so let me check the access also. Image data.
For creating the role PO,
Yeah.
what is the role?
For that, we will need basically the buyer and then the procurement manager. So also we have the procurement preparer as well. So primarily, so we need these two and also the procurement preparer. So these are the roles.
Okay. Where is the procurement?
Okay, buyer is there. Procurement preparer is not there. Okay, let me. Okay, so let's see if this is working. If not, I'll come back to the screen.
We want to change the approver username.
Yeah.
You have to
So
deploy again.
yeah, save and then deploy. Okay, so this is done. Okay, we'll see if this is appearing now. If not, we'll add the procurement preparer role also.
Which role? Procurement?
Procurement preparer.
Payroll. Okay.
Yeah, so we got it. Okay, so again the supplier I think we created in the previous instance, but then here let me check randomly. So I'll just take advanced corporation. Okay, and yeah, so other informations are populated. So based on the setup, so it's the procurement B. Basically, the BU is selected, and we have given the supplier, so which has got only one side. So automatically, even that is created. Okay. And here, this is the buyer that we have given. So based on this, basically the approval will work. So it's not always, but for our rules, we have defined based on the buyer. So now we'll have to make sure that this is the buyer. So primarily, so whatever the condition that we have given, if all those conditions are matching, if the conditions are matching, then it should work. The approval should get approved automatically. Okay. So yeah, so the other informations, this will get populated once we fill in the line level information. Okay, so these are all optional, like the shipping method, freight, and the other things. Okay, so I'll just say add line here. Okay, so first thing, so here I'll have the line type. So this is what I was referring to. So the line type, if you see, so we'll have a lot of line types. Okay, so from here I can select this. So based on this selection, so I will have what do you call the PO match option selected. So I'll show where that will be created. Okay,
Okay.
so this we are creating it for the manual transaction. Okay, so I'll just say this is my, let's say, rent uh, payment, and let me see if there is a category called miscellaneous. So we'll attach the miscellaneous category here. Okay, and I'm paying this for 1 month, so I'll just select this as 1 month. Unit of measure, I don't think month will be there. Yeah, it is there actually. Yeah, so it is 1 month, and the price is 15,000. Sorry, it's not 15. I think this is inside 200, I think. So 15,000 it will not work out because the rule that we have written is below 500, I think so. Okay, so that's the thing. So now here if you see, so we have so in this case we are not selecting the item. So if it is material or if it is asset purchase, so then we'll have the item associated here. But then this is not the material, so this is just the service that I'm paying for. Okay, so I'll say in the description, so this is the service that I got, and I'll select the category as miscellaneous, and then the quantity and the price, so which will give me the total. Okay, so this is what about this. And so this requester is nothing but whoever has requested for this item. So let's say I'm not creating this requisition. So if I have the requisition, I'll have the requester, because I associated to the buyer, I will also capture the who has requested for this item. But now if I'm creating this manual purchase order, so I'll not have the requester. So manually I can add the requester because requester can be different and buyer can be different. Okay. So now in the schedules, if you see, so I will have the inventory unit that is associated. Okay. And then here if you see, so we have something called requested date and then the promised date. So let me say the promised date is today's date. Okay. So I'm not capturing the date what I requested for.
Okay. How that organization got populated on business unit, is it?
Yeah, business unit based on the association. I mean the setup that we have associated. So system will populate the organization automatically.
So 410 refers to what actually?
So 410 is the organization code that is given here. So the way that this will work is that, so if you remember, so we created this inventory organization. So when we create this inventory organization, so we also associated the business unit. So now if I select this particular business unit, yeah, here, if I select this business unit, Supremo US business unit, so system automatically considers or calculates that this is the inventory arc that we are trying to do the transaction and it will populate here. So
Okay.
it's the numerical number that is given, but if we wanted to call it, let's say B, sorry. So let's say if it is BP inventory unit, so the BP inventory unit you will see here. But that
Mhm.
setup that we created is in the previous system, so we will not have that. So that's the reason I'm using the available inventory unit. But then whatever the unit that we are creating there and the business unit that we are associating. So based on the business unit selection that we are making here, the inventory unit is populated automatically. So now,
Okay.
since this is the inventory unit that system has selected, so here, whatever the item that I have within this particular inventory unit, so only those item will be listed down here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so this is the link basically.
But
Okay.
we don't have the costing and all defined. So how from where like the price gets populated or it's a manual entry in
Yeah,
this
so
case?
that is basically based on the cost arc that we are associating. So this costing and this thing, so we'll see after the order management and then the inventory module because the costing is something kind of an consolidated one. So now if you
Okay.
see the costing, so it's kind of an half information that will be seeing or it will be kind of a deviation. So to avoid that, so we'll complete these three and then we'll go to the costing one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So then if I see here, so I can edit this particular information. Okay. So I'll just say edit. And now if I come down, so I will have this matching option and how am I creating this receipt? So all those options. Okay. So in this case, the receipt creation is uh, not an useful thing because the option that I'm using is the two-way matching. So when it is two-way matching, it is matched with the purchase order. So when I'm not basically uh, matching with the receipt, so this receipt creation is not required at all, first of all. Okay. So probably if I'm changing this to receipt, okay, instead of the purchase order, so then probably this will make sense. But in this case, two-way matching, say a purchase order, so this will not be useful. Just as an option, just I'm giving here. Okay. And then here, if you see, so we have something called charge account. So this will talk about when we see this particular setup, that is TAD. Okay,
Okay.
so here we'll have the variance account, charge account, and the accrual account. So by then we'll talk about it. So for now, we'll see how the accrual flow is working out. Okay, so this charge account is nothing but what would be the expense that I'm booking. Okay, so this is so basically this is rent expense that I'm creating. So I'll just select the rent account. Okay, so let me pick the office rent and say okay. Okay. So the other informations are whatever I have given there. Okay. So one additional point is that, so here if you see, so this is project details. So now it's not, so majorly it's not linked with project transaction, but if at all we are implementing the project module, so then this particular information is linked here, because the way the project information is transferred is that so the flow will go something like this. So there will be a requisition, and then there will be a purchase order, and then we'll receive the item. So once it is received, then we'll have to match it with the invoice. So now whatever the project number that I'm capturing here, that will be passed to the invoice. Or if I'm capturing this information at the requisition stage itself, then I will have this project number captured for the requisition. Okay, and then that information is passed to the this particular field that is inside the purchase order. Okay, so this is one thing. And then from the payables, the data is transferred to the project module. So basically, this project module will interact with accounts payable. Okay, so in order to do that, so we'll have to pass this information. So if at all there is project accounting module implemented. Okay, so that's about it. So I'll just say okay and save and submit. Okay, so this will take 30 seconds to 40 seconds to approve this transaction, because engine will run, basically the BPM engine. So this will run. Okay, so once that particular activity is completed, so then we will see, we'll just wait for it. Okay, and then we'll query the purchase order number, and we'll see what is the status of that particular purchase order. So our understanding is that, so this purchase order should be approved automatically. Okay. So we check what is the status maybe. Okay, still it is pending approval. So now, if at all there is any issue in getting approved, so how do we understand whether, because in terms of status, if you see, so it is going to say the same, it is going to give the same status. That is, it is pending for approval. But now, if I want to basically see whether this particular approval has went to the particular person, or this is approved automatically, or this has some issue in terms of picking the approval rules. So where I can find is that, so here if I come down, so in the tools section, so I have something called transaction console. Okay, so if I click this option, so by default I will have the failed transactions. Okay, so now if I remove this, okay, so this is kind of a filter that we can make. Okay, so this is the purchase order that we created, so we can see who has submitted this. Okay, and assigned to is blank, because the way that we created is that we will do the approval process as an auto approved. Okay, so that's the reason, so we are seeing this as an this thing. So I'll just open this. Yeah, so I think this is getting processed. So let me wait for another 10 seconds maybe, uh, and see if this is getting uploaded. Okay.
What all
So meanwhile,
transactions it will show in that console? Like, is it only related to the approval or any transactions like PO, requisitions, whatever we create,
yeah, so
it will show there.
yeah, so whatever transaction that we are talking about approval, so that is one screen wherein we'll monitor. So the requisition approval, the purchase order approval, invoice approval, the journal approval, everything will be monitored in that particular screen.
Transaction console.
Yeah.
Apart from approvals.
No, that is only for approval. Apart
Oh,
from
okay.
approval, so I'll not see any other information.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. So, okay. So, meanwhile, so what we will do is that, so we'll create probably another one. Okay. So that is with this thing. So we have this. Okay. For this, I'll have to write a new rule, I think. So let me write one rule with the approval group. Okay. So I'll just go back to the setup and maintenance, and I'll create the second rule. So yeah, here approval management. So it is the purchasing document. Okay, so let me say add, and let me call this below 50,000 and say okay. Okay, I think special character is not allowed. Okay, so here I can add condition. So what is the field that we use? Document ordered amount. Yeah, so this is the one. So let's say the amount is 50,000, and I'll say okay. And then the second condition that I want to add is, so yeah, it is the buyer. Okay, it is FIN. Okay, and then I'll have to go to action. Okay, I think I did not create this approval group yet. So let me just save this. For time being, so we'll come back and change the approval group what we are creating now. Okay, so for now I'll just give it as this. Okay, so in this case I'll switch over to the other module, and will, because here I'll not find the approval rules, because I'll have to go to the actual the work list. Yeah, so this is here. Yeah, so it is here. So I'll just create one approval group. So I say add, and this is below 50,000. Okay, and add one more user. So let's say FIN. Okay, so let me select this one called fin dot impl. Okay, so the R's is basically 21. So just the fin impl is what I have selected as the manager. Okay, so similarly I can add multiple level. So if I say add, so it is going to create the second layer, and after this particular person, so the person two will approve the request. Okay, so that's the setup that we are doing
So
here.
it is like creating a logical name for the group and adding,
Correct.
associating
User.
a user to that group.
Correct.
So, so it will not pick up the names or hierarchy as per the identity management, like how in an organization the reporting
Yeah,
structure will be
that
there.
will, yeah, that will not take.
Okay.
So that's why I gave this example. So if you see here, so it's not
Mm.
the same department. So it is cross department or across the department. Okay. So which will be achieved through this option, approval group.
So what we did is below 50,000 one group we created and we added one user to that.
Yeah, correct.
And we can add multiple users here and where will we define like whether if one of the user is also approved we are good or like that ratio 50%, 50% that
Yeah,
is
that
there any
is
twist?
that is parallel. So that is parallel approval
Oh,
that
okay.
we'll talk about. So this is
Okay, okay, okay.
so this is for the approval group that I'm saying.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Let me just
How did
see.
we come to this work list UI?
So you can take any of the approval apart from the procurement and the requisition, because procurement and requisition it is out of BPM, which means that in terms of technical component or the technical architecture, so it is tightly packed with the BPM work list, but in the application in terms of configuration, so it is taken out of the BPM work list, because here if you see, so this is journal approval that I have clicked, so which will take me to the BPM work list, and from there I can do the setups. But if we take the procurement, it is not going to take us to separate screen wherein we have screen inside this procurement module. Okay, so which we will be doing the configuration. So if you see,
I
so
see.
same screen that we are using.
Right. Mm.
Okay, so I'll just change this.
Oh, this 15,000 and then fire is this user. Then
Okay, so this is the one that we created, that is below 50,000. Okay, so I'll just attach this. Okay, okay, so as an option, so if I don't find any approver in this list, so whether I want to approve it automatically is this particular setup, because sometimes what will happen is that, so this request will be sent to the manager, but this manager might have missed to approve this request, but then this team, purchase team, cannot wait for a longer time, and get this approved. Okay, so in that case, what they can do is that, so they can basically check this particular amount and they can approve it automatically. So which means they will not wait for the actual managers to approve, but then the mail of the system, they will communicate that we have taken the approval and they will proceed for the purchasing. Okay, so if we have that requirement, we can enable this. For now, I'm just leaving it blank, so I'm not enabling that option. Okay, I'll save by this. Okay, so I'll just go back to the procurement screen. Yeah, so now if you see, so this has approved. So that's the reason we are seeing the status as open.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I will do is that, so I'll try to create one invoice with this particular, uh, I'll create one invoice and match this purchase order. Okay, so this is the purchase order number. Okay, and so the status, if you see, so you'll have two status basically. So one is incomplete. So incomplete is something that we are creating as a new transaction. And when this is in approval phase, it will say pending for approval. And once it is approved, so then we'll have the status as open. Okay, and then if it is matched with the invoice also and it has closed all those things, the entire transaction is completed, so then we'll see the status as closed, which means that we'll not be able to use this purchase order because whatever the item that we have ordered, so we have already invoiced. Okay, so that's the meaning.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just say done and I'll go to the payable module. I think the payable roles are already assigned. So let me check. If it is not there, we'll assign. I think it is there. Okay, so this is the invoice. So I'll just say create invoice. Okay, so here I'll select the Supremo. Sorry, I'll not give this information. So I'll just directly give the purchase order number. Okay, so this we will give the business unit and the supplier. So when we are creating this particular transaction manually, which means for the manual invoice is what will select the business unit, supplier, and the other information. But here I'm just created the purchase order and I'm trying to match this purchase order with the invoice. Okay, so this is for 200. So I think the tags will get added to this. So I'll just add later point of time. Okay. So now I have given this basic information. So now to match with the purchase order. So if you see here, so we have match invoice lines. So I'll have to click this option. So which will take me to the screen where I can match my invoice lines. So now if I have okay, so this is the warning message which says that self-billing enabled. Okay, so Yeah, so this is nothing but the quantity that we are trying to match it here. Okay. So now if I change this unit price, which will end up in invoice price variance. So that is kind of an finance setup that they will do. Okay, because they will have to do this account mapping and this thing. So now if I change price here, so that account will get hit. So now let's assume that I have 10 quantities. Okay. Now if I'm trying to change this quantity to 5, which means that out of 10 quantities that I have ordered, I have received 5 quantities and I'm creating this invoice only for that particular 5 quantities. So which you can see here. So here if you see ordered is 1 and available is 1. Okay, so since I have not built it yet, so I'm saying build is 0. Okay, so if you see here the received and accepted is not applicable because this we are trying to match it with the purchase order. So the receipt and the other details are irrelevant in this case. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll just select this line and say okay.
So the document sequencing and all, it was is not applicable for this, is it? Like we created some sequence
Yeah, that is
in
for
that.
the requisition and the purchase order, but this is invoice, right? So invoice will not be able
Yeah,
to do the automatic because
right. But for we
the
created a PO, no? So for that also the sequence was not applicable, right?
No, no, there I will have to give some sequence because if you see my requisition and the purchase order is my internal document. So I will need this sequence to be generated for auditing purposes. Okay. But then here if you see, so this is invoice copy. So this invoice is not created by me. So vendor who will create the invoice and he will give his invoice copy. So wherein I'll have the invoice number in that copy. So I cannot
Right.
use my own copy because if tomorrow, let's say I wanted to validate, so there is some malpractice that has happened. So now if I want to validate, if this invoice amount which comes with this invoice number is 10,000 or 20,000, so the main component or the main item which I will use to track back is this invoice number. So for
Yeah.
that purpose, so this invoice number is always manual. So we will check or we will take this number from the invoice copy and we'll have to import it manually. So we'll not be able to automate it. So what we can automate is that so we can automate something called document sequence number. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you see here, so in this transaction, so it's not enabled, but if I have the document sequence that is enabled, so the voucher number will be generated automatically. So this will be unique to our system. Okay. So this we can generate, but I will not be able to generate it. So that will be a manual one. Okay. Yeah, so I have matched it. So here if you see, so this information is copied from the purchase order screen. Okay, so most of the information basically, and even the amount and the other information is copied. So similarly, so if you see, if you remember, so I said the project information will be copied. So we did not give it, so we don't have it because if I have something in the project side, so I can mention that that is the task number, all those things, but we are not sure about it, so we don't have that information. But then if we have it, so this these fields you will see the information, that is project number, task and the expenditure information. Okay. Yeah, so that's about it. So now I can just say validate. So validate is just checking if the informations are correct. So now, so this will say needs revalidation. So the reason being, so I did not include my tags. Okay, so now if you click this needs revalidation, so you will see the line variance. So the line variance meaning, so here I should be getting my tags added to my header. So that's the mean. So here if you see, so this is out of balance. So I'll have to copy this and have this in my invoice amount. So now I'll just save and validate this. Okay, so now this invoice is validated. Okay, so account this I can say post to general ledger and approval. So similar to the purchase order, so we have the approval here as well. Okay, so which you can see here. So if you click this validated option, so which will tell us whether the approval is required or not. Okay, so now for time being, what I'll do is that I'll do a force approval because we are not sure who's the manager. Okay, so I'll just say force approval because the, okay, I think I'll have to enable this option. Yeah, because if you see the approval that we have set up is only for this thing, or you call the purchase order, but not for the invoice screen. So I'll just say force approve so that I can override this step or skip this step. So we go to financials and enable this option. I think this is in invoice options. Okay, so yeah, so I'll just try to do allow force approval and say save and close. Okay, so now we have approved this. Okay, so we can see here the status that is manually approved. So if we follow the path, which means that actual approval process, will see the status as approved. So since we have skipped that particular setup, so which says that manually approved. Okay, so now so in the payment cycle, I mean P2P cycle, so the first thing what we are looking at is this, that is two-way matching. So what we did is that, so we created the purchase order. Okay, and then we created the invoice. So lastly we'll do the payment part. Okay, so to do the payment, so in the action, so I can say pay in full. Okay, so here I can select the payment process profile. So these are completely the, what do you call, the finance items. So they will set up the bank account, they will set up the profile, so how they want to basically do the configurations in terms of processing the payment. Okay, but we will have to understand how as a flow this transaction will go through. Okay, so for that purpose, so we are seeing this cycle as well. Okay, so now I'll just say submit, so which will create the payment in the system, and it will give us the payment number. So the payment number is 1248. Okay, so after this, so we will get the statement from bank, and bank will say, or bank will tell us that against this payment number which you have shared with us, so this is the reference number. So the reference number is given, meaning that this payment which you have given has been processed and vendor account is credited. Okay, so that's the understanding there. Okay, so we'll have to get the statement from the bank, so we'll not be able to load the statement and check the entire flow, but to understand, so this transaction number will be mapped in the bank statement, and by matching we'll be able to do the reconciliation. So that's the last part. Okay, so in P2P matching, first thing is this. Okay, so now we have another scenario, so wherein we wanted to create this uh, prepayment, that is advance. So advance is what referred as prepayment in finance term. Okay, so again we are going to see the same process, but this is for against the standard invoice. But what we are going to see now is against this particular advance. Okay, so here in this process, I used the auto approval. So for the prepayment, what I'm going to do is that, so I'm going to uh, use this option of routing through the approval group. Okay, so I'll just say save and close. Okay, so I'll just navigate back to the procurement screen. Yeah, so I'll just take this procurement and create order. So now, okay, I'll just take the same vendor, so that is advanced corporation. Okay, and I'll say create order. Okay, so other information we have seen already. So here in this case, what I will do is that, so okay, let me just disable this option first because it is creating warning. So I'll just say this is for the service. Okay, so I'll change the type to fixed service, and I'll create two lines. So let me first change it to service. I'm not sure if, yeah, it is here. It's price service. Okay. Uh, so let me call this as contract payment, and again this would be miscellaneous. Okay. So I'll say price. So price is, let's say, um, so for the line number one, I'll say 40,000. Okay, and then let me add a second line with the amount of 5,000. So again, this is fixed price. Okay, so this is 5,000. Okay, so let me just say this is requested today. Okay, and this would be, let's say, second. Okay, so now I will have to change the payment method that I'm using, or let's try to create a new payment term. So let me call this milestone payment. Okay, and then I'll say 50% now. Okay, so which is on immediate basis, and then 50%. Okay, so which will be after 4 days, I think. One, two, no, 3 days. Okay, so which will be after 3 days. Okay, so similarly, you can distribute at any level. Okay, so this is the payment term that I will be using. Okay, so now if I come down, so I'll have to associate this with the common set. Okay, so this is the one. So I'll say save and close. So let me search for, yeah, so this is the one that we created. Okay, so now let me say save and submit for approval. Okay, I think I did not give the charge account. So here we gave the account last time. So similarly, so account, the exact one I'm not giving. So I'm just giving the same the rental account which we selected. Okay, because for the contractual, I'm not sure what account we have it in this instance. Okay, because account is something that we are selecting it manually. So I'm just giving this as a rent account. So actual expense account, so probably user can enter it. Okay. So let me give it for line number one as well. Okay, so I'll just save this and submit it for approval. Okay, so let me just copy this purchase order. So now this will take some time to get it approved. Okay, so meanwhile, so what we will do is that, so we will try to take, we'll try to get the manager's approval. So in this case, manager is FIN IMPL. So we'll just try to reset the password of this particular user and we'll see if the notification is received. Yeah, it is security console. Yeah, so this is the one that is fin.impl. So I'll say reset the password manually. Okay, so let me log out and log in using the manager credential. Okay, so maybe I'll just talk about this notification worklist. So what we have, okay. So now this is one common place where we basically monitor our actionable items for a day, which means whatever the approval requests that we get, irrespective of the module. So this we are not talking about only for the procurement. So if this particular person has been assigned to approve the invoice, so even that particular approval request will come to this notification. So wherein I can see. So it is not only the notification for the action. So when we talk about the notification, so it is two things. So one is that are actionable and non-actionable. So non-actionable is something like this. That is FYI. So here, if you see, your password has been uh, resetted. So which means that there is no action for you to take in this scenario, but if you uh, want to just know what has happened, so it will you will get it notified. Okay, so that's the option of having FOA. But
Okay.
what is the actionable notification is that so you will have to either approve or reject this particular transaction. Okay, so that's the actionable. Okay, so now I think it might take some time to get it processed because it will take normally 30 seconds to 40 seconds for us to process it. So let me just go back and see if that is getting processed. Sorry, I should log out. Yeah, so this is the one. Okay, before that, let me check the transaction console. Okay, I think this transaction has approved. Maybe some other approval is working for this, I think. Let me go back to the approval screen because this should have been sent to the manager's approval based on the rule that we have written, but somehow this was went as an auto approve.
Is it because the order rule always applied? The order is second one.
The order actually we have given it as an okay, I
Conditions.
think this is because of this rule because always do it automatically is what this rule has.
Automatic approve. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, for time being, let's disable this.
Does it gets executed based on the order here in the rule UI? Like first one it checks, second one it checks, third one it checks. Is it like that or?
Yeah, yeah. Order also we have, I mean
Okay.
the priority. So based on the priority it will work. But
Priority.
then,
Okay.
yeah, but
Okay.
then we did not give any priority. So we just said it
Priority.
doesn't give.
Okay.
Okay, so let me check for other things also. The other options, maybe the post processing or something if you have, because logically this should not approve. So one rule that we have done it. Okay, this is FYI unparalleled. Okay, here again we have it. Okay, so let's try with one more purchase order. Okay, so we have created the first line. So similar to the previous transaction. So let me create for line number 2 also. So that is for 5,000. Sorry, so this will be second. Okay, and the payment term would be milestone. So let me just save this. Okay, I did not again give the account. Yeah, so this is pending for approval. So let me check in the transaction console. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. Okay,
So once it is approved, like you wanted to do the payment terms, is it?
no payment terms we have, as you
Installment.
said,
Okay.
that's what the installment. So we created this one, right? The
Yeah.
milestone payment.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, milestone we created and we attached it. So with that, we are trying to create one advance payment and accounts payable module. And the payment, of
Yeah.
course, we have seen it already. So it's the same simple process.
Yeah.
So we are trying to basically create it with the prepayment and the status should be in available. So that's what we
Okay.
are trying to do. Okay. Okay, I think the rule did not apply.
Gibbons.
Mm, Okay, this is the login. Which login I'm using? Yeah, this is the one I'm using. Okay, so the first rule is this is the buyer, and the amount is okay. I think I have given the amount as equal to, so that's why it did not pick up. It should be actually less than 50,000.
Okay.
Okay, now I think it should work. Because when it is equal to, it will check if the amount is exactly 50,000. Because our case, it is not exactly 50,000, it is around 48,000 something with tax. So that's why it did not go through. So let me try to create one more purchase order. Okay, it's done.
This charge account you have defined for the second one also.
Yeah, I think I forgot. Okay, so I'll just submit, and this is the PO number. Okay, so the engine is running. Again, this has failed. Mm,
It is asking us to validate the parallel consensus.
Yeah, that's what even I'm checking because the way that we have written a serial. Okay, so I'll check this. Let's not spend time on fixing this. So I'll check this and we'll see probably because I'm having another session by 6:30 also. So we'll stop at this point. So I'll try to fix this and we'll see tomorrow.
Sure.